Hey there, welcome back to Tennille Talks. Y'all, before I begin the reading, I just want to say something. The background, like the scenery of my personal life, is shifting and changing in beautiful ways. I need like about 1 or 2 more weeks to really develop some type of schedule and consistency for the channel and the space that we share here together. Same thing with Patreon. Other things are changing and I gotta honor that space. But I'm here, I'm just understanding how to better show up now that I've gone through changes elsewhere. So I wanted to make that, I just wanted to say that to y'all, okay? Because I did not speak to you on Monday. That was not the plan, but it kind of had to unfold that way for me. So in this reading, the overall message, my handmade card says, they keep you hidden away, quarantined and isolated so that others who need you cannot get to you. When others need you, we're talking about you possessing things that other people need. Like you have something that somebody else is looking for. And the reason for your isolation, your quarantine, the reason why sometimes it feels like life is hiding you, like that's intentional, okay? So this reading is going to describe an aspect of you being in isolation, literally feeling like you are quarantined for some reason. Now, I'm using my tarot deck. This is like that divine truth deck where every single card attaches to like some type of folktale. Now, y'all, first of all, the folktale I'm going to be talking about in this reading, it's called The Condor Seeks a Wife or The Condor's Wife, but this is a Peruvian tale. I did not know that a condor, Condor, is a vulture. So I'm talking about a condor. We're going to talk about the condor's wife, aka the vulture's wife, but there's also a parrot that is significant in the story. So listen up, here it goes. A condor fell in love with a young woman who was tending to her flock of sheep. He changed himself into a handsome young man and came and stood beside her where her flock was grazing. So y'all remember, everything is spiritual. So something about you in your life, there were seasons where you were intentionally hidden. The way in which this story begins starts already with deception. This story begins with trickery. You got a vulture who turns themselves into a man. And so in order for this to begin, I want you to go back to the beginning of time, okay? Now, Condor turns himself into a handsome young man. What do you do here? He said. I graze my flock, she answered. I sing my songs, and with my slingshot, I chase away the foxes who comes to eat my lambs, and the great condor who tries to snatch me up in his talons. He says, would you like me to stay with you and help you chase the fox and scare away the condor? Oh, no, she replied, for then I would lose my freedom. I love my sheep and I love to be free. I love to be alone and I love to sing. I do not wish to marry. Then I will go, but you have not seen the last of me. The next day, the condor returned, again disguised as a young man. So there may have been somebody that you cross paths with, y'all. It doesn't have to be romantic. Obviously, that's kind of like the energy of this reading. But this is almost like you having a narrative for how you want your life to play out. But then there's someone else of interest. This can be anybody in your life, somebody else who is interested in you for whatever reason. They have a path that you want to walk down. At some point, you may have had to tell someone no. Now, in the story, she literally says, I do not wish to marry, aka I do not want to be in a contract with you. This could have been about a life experience where somebody wanted to contract you some way, somehow. You decide, you know what? I love my freedom. This is how I like my life to unfold. So I am going to continue on my path. All right. So the next day, the condor returns, disguised as a young man. We can't talk, can we? He said. Yes, we can talk, she said. Tell me, where do you come from? The condor says, I come from high mountain tops, close to the thunder. I see the first light of dawn and the last light of evening. And there among the brilliant snows, I enjoy pure solitude and perfect silence. Won't you go there with me? Would you be the queen of the air? The clear blue sky would be our roof, and from deep in the valley, the flowers would send up their perfume. Won't you go there, my love? She responds, no, I do not care for mountaintops. I prefer my pasture and my sheep. And I love my mother. She would cry for me if I were gone. The condor says, I will say no more. But do me one small favor. I have a burning itch beside my shoulder. Lend me the long pin from your scarf so I can scratch it. The young woman lent him the pin, and when he had finished using it, he went away. The next day, the same young man returned. You have bewitched me, he said, and I cannot live without you. Come away with me now. No, I must not, she said. My sheep would miss me. My mother would weep. Ah, he blurted, I have the same burning itch beside my shoulder. If only you would rub it for me with your smooth fingers, smooth as alpaca wool, you would cure me forever. As he bent over, the incautious young woman climbed onto his back. The moment he felt her resting on his shoulders, he became a condor and flew swiftly into the sky with his precious cargo between his wings. Higher and higher they rose, and after a soaring voyage, they reached a cave near the summit of a mountain. So he takes her back to Condorville. Now she's living with the vultures. Now he's got other condor relatives. He's got a condor mother. Everybody loves her, okay? At some point, the young girl falls in love with the condor. Like, he's very affectionate. And she loves the fact that, like, he loves her the way he does. Now, the only problem with her living there is that he didn't bring her anything to eat. So let's talk about this spiritually. You may have had to tell somebody no in a variety of ways. Maybe there could have been some type of contract that had the potential to develop, but something about it didn't align with you. This is like somebody who has an agenda. They already have an initiative for you. You authentically express yourself. They accept. But this is somebody who was trying again and again and again to get you to live out the narrative that they have for your life. This can be anybody. So the relationship continues almost as if they truly respect you authentically for who you are. But in the back of this person's mind, similar to the condor, they still have the agenda that they are planning for you. And so just like the condor kind of gets her warm and comfortable with being close to him, right? And it's almost like as soon as she gets comfortable, as soon as she gets close enough, then he gets to begin the journey that he always wanted to take with her. Y'all, this could happen physically in your life, or this can be happening spiritually in your life. Now, when she's finally like in his realm, finally in a place where he has some type of dominance or some type of control, she does have a level of affection and care and love for him. And this is not somebody who's technically abusive in any way. But the problem is, based on this folktale, is that he brought her nothing to eat. So when I think about eating spiritually, I think about people who are not equally yoked. One of the reasons why you know you can't align with some people is because they cannot feed you. They cannot feed your body, your mind, your soul, or your spirit, right? And so whether you know or not, when you are choosing to say yes or no to people, places, or things, it's really about, is this going to feed me? Am I going to find nourishment in this situation? So when she's finally like in his territory, he is not feeding her. So she says to him, your tender caresses, they make my heart happy, but I am growing weak with hunger. Think about a relationship where like there's an aspect of it that's beautiful, but on a soul level, you are starving, literally malnourished, right? And so she says, listen, don't forget that I must eat and I must drink. I need fire. I need meat. I need the good things that grow in the earth. I'm hungry, my love, and thirsty. So the condor took flight, right? He started to discover things. He was trying to find everything that he could get for her. Now, when he finally brings things back, he is collecting the flesh of dead animals. He's also bringing home potatoes from gardens, but the meat that he brought her was foul smelling, and the potatoes that he brought her had already gone soft. So this is somebody who is making an attempt to kind of give or be what you need them to be, but even the quality of what they are presenting you with is really not up to par. And so the woman is overcome with hunger, yet she's still devouring unpleasant food. Can we talk about those relationships or those contracts we're in, where for all of the best reasons we are staying true to them? But if we're really honest, we understand that I am never going to eat in the way that my soul or my heart really desires and deserves, right? So she's starting to wish for bread, but there is no way that the condor could provide her with bread. So back on the ranch, her mother is weeping because the house is empty. Her daughter has been gone. The young woman at the same time is feeling homesick, right? She's dealing with the bad food. You got the condor. Now, at some point, the woman is so thin and her body begins to change. She starts to grow feathers. She even lays eggs, like she is officially the condor's wife. Y'all, whether physically or spiritually, sometimes there are certain contracts, like where you are not consciously aware that you are actually becoming and growing into the very thing that was trying to solicit you, right? So I'm looking at this spiritually. So when she grows legs, when she grows feathers and lays eggs, spiritually, I imagine us being in a contract with something that we were never aligned with, but somehow against our own will, we're starting to morph into this thing, okay? So she's the queen of the air. She's hatching chicks. Now her mother is still abandoned. One day, while her mother is weeping, there is a parrot. The parrot speaks to the mother and says, "Don't weep. Your daughter is alive. She's high in the mountains. She is the wife of the great condor." Right? And the parrot says, "Listen, if you give me some corn from your garden, and if you let me perch in your trees and nest, I will bring your daughter back to you." That's the deal. The woman agrees. So she gives the parrot the corn. She says, "Here, you can live in my trees. You can make your mess." So the parrot flies way up to the mountaintop. And he chose to visit the mountain when the condors were off guard. The parrot picks up the young woman and carried her back to her mother's side. When she got back home, she was skinny, thin. She smelled bad because of all that poor food she had eaten. The glossy feathers that were sticking out of her, they started to kind of fall off. The story says that she almost looked like a human who was just trying to dress like a bird. You know how sometimes we try to be in things that really aren't aligned with us, and we look and feel uncomfortable, like we can never grow into it. You know, getting a new pair of shoes, you want to break them in. There are some things that we will never be able to break in. So the mother is really glad. She washed her, she dresses her, and then obviously she feeds her. Now, angry and grieving, the condor is upset because his wife is gone. And so the condor is in search of the parrot. When the condor finds the parrot is fat, full, and comfortable, living in the same garden that he received as some type of payment for returning the woman to her mother. So the condor swoops down and devours the parrot whole. But the parrot went straight through the condor's body and came out of the other end. So the condor swallows the parrot whole again and again. And each time he swallows the condor, the parrot comes out whole. So now the condor is really mad. And so he seizes the parrot, tears the parrot into little pieces with the sharp talons, and then he swallows the parrot piece by piece by piece. But each piece that he swallowed, a pretty little parrot comes out of the other end whole. Now, based on the folktale, this is how parrots came about. Like, this is the origin of the parrot that we know today based on this story. So at some point, the condor returns to the mountain, dyes his wings or dyes his feathers black as a sign of the mourning. And the tears that the condor is crying, those are supposed to be the ashes. Think about think about the geography of Peru. So the ashes in the air, those are supposed to be the tears that the condor has left behind. Okay, now y'all, that is the story. The tarot story I just told you connects to the Four of Coins. The Four of Coins talks about greed, unwillingness to open up, unwillingness to share. It talks about hoarding, whether it's hoarding possessions, hoarding finances. It's about materialist and stingy. And so this story about you possibly experiencing some type of quarantine, isolation, or imprisonment, this is almost giving me the feeling, well, if you won't have me, or if I can't have you, if I can't experience you, no one else will. Y'all, at some point, you were in quarantine and you were in isolation. Now, the vision I got, I tried to match it to the thumbnail that's created. Y'all know how sometimes when you're working out, there's this exercise and it's called a tire pull, and you literally have a thick rope, just like the thumbnail. In the same way that that rope is tied around the cage, there's a tire pull. You tie a tire around your waist, and it's really a level of resistance training, right? So what I'm imagining in this reading is that the same cage that you were quarantined and isolated in, it doesn't have to be physical. For some people, it may be physical jail. For others, this is about an energy that is supposed to keep you still and stuck, right? If I can't experience you, if I don't get to have everything, because you are not willing to align with me, and it's really like literally being unequally yoked. Even if you would have contracted yourself to the thing that wanted to contract itself to you, you would have never have gotten food. It would not have fed you on a soul level, on a spiritual level. Now, this reading is saying the same cage, could have been spiritual or energetic, the same cage that you were put in, that is the same cage that you are now dragging around your waist. Y'all, this reading says that somebody is worried. Somebody is worried, but they're recognizing that even if I worry, and what are they worried about? That you're not in the cage. All of the work that was done to energetically keep you bound in a variety of ways. This is almost like somebody having no more tools. They have no more tricks spiritually or energetically about how to keep you quarantined and bound. They're out of options. But at the same time that they are out of options, you are out of the cage. And they're worried because this is the moment where they cannot change the outcome. But y'all know how God works, right? And so what I imagined in this reading, I literally wanted to understand, what does tire pulling do to the body? Can you imagine how scary it would be to think that you have somebody trapped? And then the same vessel that you have them trapped in, they are strong enough to pull the same energy. Y'all, that is transmutating. So the same cage that you were locked in, now you are pulling that cage around. It's a workout. It's lightweight, right? So think about a tire. When we're talking about pulling a tire, what does it physically do to your body? It encourages you to forward lean in order to be more efficient when you're running. Think about your posture. And so this means any type of resistance, isolation, or quarantine that you went through, it was teaching you how to walk when energies are moving against you. Right now, the same cage that keeps you bound, it no longer becomes a cage when you literally can just pick it up. It can't hold you anymore. But whoever is worried, and I'm using runes for this reading too, whoever is worried is attached to the rune Othala. Othala is the rune for family heritage, possessions. This is about possibly inheriting something. This rune connects to ancestors, family traditions, The past is on the phone and somebody is worried because they can't do nothing about what the present is about to bring them. You understand what I'm saying? So the type of people or persons that can be worried, literal family members can be worried because they were responsible for keeping you isolated, hidden, and quarantined. Not only that, maybe there was a reason why they kept you in that cage. Othala says because there is an inheritance. Maybe there is some type of family tradition or possession that you were supposed to receive access to, but because you were hidden, it escaped you. Whatever was done, somebody's out of options. And so when I give you this reading, I'm standing in the shoes of the condor. I'm standing in the shoes of the vulture. When we're talking about you being quarantined, under that card, I have another message and it says catching feelings. One of the reasons why you were literally kept elsewhere is because maybe somebody didn't want anybody to see you, to love you, to like you. Catching feelings. I'm going to keep you locked up so nobody catches feelings for you. This is somebody who seems very sour in their feelings. If you walked away, if you chose self over another, this is somebody who couldn't let you go. And physically, if they didn't tell you that, energetically, they were doing something behind the scenes. But again, the same cage you were in is the same cage that you are dragging. Because what was happening when you were locked up? If God allowed it, why? So here's the thing. Tire pulling is a type of resistance training that fixes your posture. It allows you to lean in, right? And so when smoke comes to you, you are not the type of person that ever runs from smoke. You run into it because you got the answers, because you got hands and feet for it. You understand? But these are the things that you acquired in that cage. The only way you can pull the cage is if you're stronger and bigger and mightier than the cage. That is terrifying to whoever created this cage for you. You're dragging it now, right? When you pull a tire, it builds power and strength in your lower body. Spiritually speaking, you have grown roots. Your lower 3 chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, that is the lower body that you were working out when you were in quarantine, when you were isolated and being hidden. So now you are a force. When we're talking about being grounded, we're saying, listen, if a hurricane comes, you need to be the type of tree that doesn't break, bend, or snap. When you got out of that cage, that is the type of tree you are. That's what being grounded is. Now when people throw energy at you, you don't fall over. You don't lose yourself. You don't become distorted because you can hold that type of pressure. But you can only hold the pressure because you were using this resistance as some type of workout. If God allows it, you're going to come out a lot stronger than you were when you went in. Next thing, when you pull a tire, it improves your form. So when your body is fatigued, when you're under pressure, when you're under stress, spiritually, emotionally, or mentally, something about that cage calls you a level of fatigue. It caused you stress and pressure. But if you're dragging the cage, that means that you pushed through it, you pushed past it. Y'all, you were getting a workout. Somebody really thought that you were bound, never to escape again. And you were actually getting a workout. And so, no, the condor could not feed the woman. But what was sustaining you? If you were quarantined, if you were kept away from love and connections and joy and laughter, if that was the point of this cage, what was sustaining you? What was feeding you when you were in there? Right? And so at the end of the tale, every time the condor tries to eat the parrot just multiplies or comes out whole. The parrot never changes its shape. The parrot is almost the spiritual thing in you that was developing. How do I face a condor and not change shape? How do I go against resistance and still come out as myself again and again and again? And at the end of the story, there was nothing that the condor could do to make the parrot not be the parrot. But When the condor and the woman first met, remember how I said she became thin? She started to grow feathers. And so there was an aspect of you that when you were facing a condor, when you were facing a spiritual vulture, like at the beginning, the only reason why you were in the cage is because it's almost like spiritually you were becoming them, right? And sometimes the way to beat your enemy is to become the enemy, is to become the very thing that the enemy needs you to be. So whatever the condor wanted you to become, you actually became that when you were in that cage. And it was supposed to stop there. You were just supposed to become the thing, the queen of the air. You were supposed to turn into a vulture and then never turn back into anything else. But the reason why the parrot was whole again and again, that is why God allowed you in that cage. You were always going to learn how to come out whole. You were always going to learn how to go through a situation, how to go through a spiritual storm and come out like yourself. You're going to come out looking like you, not like anybody else or anything. We often hear you don't look like what you've been through. That is the point of this. How can the Most High put you through things and have you still come out looking like his own? Y'all, this battle was not for nothing. The quarantine, the isolation, whatever it was accomplishing, yes, it kept you from other people and it kept people and prosperity and blessings from you, but it was supposed to. For a period of time, it was supposed to, because you had to grow roots. You had to grow legs, right? You had to understand how to show up when you're fatigued and you're tired and you're stressed, but you still got to be you. You still have to be ethical and moral. You still got to move with integrity. I don't care how tired you are. Who do you belong to? That's what you need to look like at all times. Last thing, y'all, when you pull a tire physically for a workout, it strengthens your abdominal wall, your lower back, your hip flexors, your quads, and your glutes. This was a lower body workout. This experience, this vulture in your life, this was a subconscious workout. You were working in your shadow. But if you're dragging the cage, that means that there is no shadow. There is no level of darkness that you can become prisoner to. For a period of time, yes, but you had to in order to conquer it, right? And so some people really thought they conquered you, but you're out of the cage. Now, the reading says that somebody wants to balance something with you. When they look at you, y'all remember how the woman in the story, she stank and she was really skinny? No. When people look at you, they see radiant health. I have a card. It talks about physical and emotional well-being. It's improving, vibrant, mental fitness, glowing, shining. Why are you looking like that? If I put you in the cage, you're supposed to come out like a mangy vulture. And so somebody is recognizing that somebody made a decision about you. And my handmade card says, let your decisions come from a place of peace and not reaction. When you were in that cage, you may have known what was happening and why it was happening and who did it to you. But the way you responded to the truths that were being revealed to you, you responded from peace. You weren't reacting. You would look like the same vulture that put you in that cage if you were responding in the way they needed you to. But if your health is radiant, then what were you doing inside of there? Not what was expected. Y'all, somebody notices that you are balanced and now they want to return and balance things with you. In the center of the reading, we have a card that says guilt. And the guilt is attached to the algae's rune. Algae's talks about a protective force, a shield. Somebody is wanting to tell the truth because they feel guilty. Now the cage they put you in has become their cage. It is haunting them. Literally, the card says peace offering. Someone wants to reach out and make amends. They want to try to restore harmony. The same peace you had in that cage, somebody can't find it. And so the only way they can find peace is if they make peace with you. And the Ace of Swords is coming out on top of guilt. In order to make peace, somebody might have to tell the truth. We got the Ace of Swords, y'all. Truth, assertiveness, clarity. This is the breakthrough, but it's mental. It's a cognitive breakthrough. Somebody's guilt is eating up at them, but the problem with the guilt is every single day you get stronger. Every single day you get better. I have a card that says growth kills ego. When you weren't growing, somebody's ego was at its greatest size. On this card, I have the Seven of Wands. The Seven of Wands talks about brute strength, endurance during attacks, being able to fight for your beliefs, being able to persevere. The image on this card is John Henry. Spiritually, energetically, somebody feels when they are up against you, you have the brute strength and force of John Henry. And so their ego, they thought, was strong. But your growth, you're growing like John. Do you understand? Like the way you are growing is dwarfing their ego. And now they're losing interest in whatever the plan was that they attached themselves to before. Now they don't want you to be the queen. Now they don't want to keep you captive. Now they want to let you go. But not only do they want to let you go, they want to go with you. I have the rune Aruz. Aruz talks about your power, your good health, your emotional courage, your creativity. But this is about every day you grow stronger and stronger and stronger. And somebody doesn't have the patience to watch you continue to grow because the guilt, like the more you grow, the heavier their guilt. Think about the pressure of what you had to go through spiritually and energetically. That weight, all of the weight that you transmuted is coming back to them, but they don't have the strength of John Henry. And every day that they see you grow stronger, their ego gets smaller and smaller. They feel less about themselves. And so this is almost like, I got to say something now because I can't take it. I got to say something now because I can't watch this, right? And literally you are dwarfing them. And everything is about energy, energetically. I don't care who this person is. I don't care about the age, the gender, the size. This could be somebody that weighs 200 more pounds than you, and you make them feel like an infant. But when you were locked away per the plan, per the work that they did, they felt mighty. They felt like they dwarfed you. But y'all, you are dragging the cage. You are dragging it around. That's what it looks like to them. But they used all of their might to create it. All of the work it took to put you in that cage, and you're dragging it. But like the work that they did, that was their prime. That was their best. The cage was their greatest work. That was their masterpiece spiritually, and you're dragging it. That's some John Henry type shit, y'all. Okay, I love you so much. I don't know what I'm going to call this one, but I'm going to get it out to you soon. All right, I love you. Talk to you later. Bye.